Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Kelly Driscoll. In this episode, you'll hear part one of my conversation with Sharron Huang, recent graduate of Stony Brook University, where she received a BA in Linguistics, an MA in Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages, and an MS in Speech-Language Pathology. More links and information about today's conversation can be found on Digication's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Full episodes of Digication Scholars Conversations can be found on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Kelly Driscoll, and today I'm so excited to introduce Sharron Huang, who graduated from Stony Brook University in May 2024. Welcome, Sharron.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. So we happened to stumble upon Sharron's extraordinary work and experiences in Digication, and I just had to reach out to have her join me on Digication Scholars Conversations because what she has created really exemplifies a Digication scholar. She has created this incredible representation of who she is, the story behind her background, all of the work that she's done at Stony Brook University, and as a recent graduate also has things to share about life beyond Stony Brook too, that I'm sure she'll have a chance to share with us today. So Sharron, I really just wanted to kind of kick off our conversation today with you talking a little bit about how this interest in studying linguistics and speech pathology came about for you. Because I know in looking at your background, you have a few different degrees and would love to hear a little bit about your journey and what has led you to become a speech language pathologist.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for having me. Just a little bit background of me. I know I'm from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised. So I've always been surrounded by such a rich community of culture and language that comes hand in hand with it. Growing up, I come from parents of immigrants, and I've had a different mother tongue than a lot of the other students in my community, and being able to share that and see that within my own students too, that's been super empowering for me to be on the flip side of it and being able to teach these students. So I started off, actually, when I first entered college at Stony Brook University, I was a bio major. I was so head set on being pre-med. Yeah, like a lot of many other students at Stony Brook. I was a biology major, and I remember taking the prerequisite freshman courses, and I wasn't doing too hot. And I remember really struggling, but also struggling adapting to college as a whole, being away from my family. But I remember really enjoying linguistics and making my switch to that full time as my major. I continued with that, and I know for me, I'm a very type A person. I wanted to make sure that I would still be able to graduate within 4 years, even though I had changed my major. So that just, even though after I changed my major, I put it into full drive, trying to catch up on these classes and still trying to make sure that I graduated in 4 years. And I guess it worked well because I actually ended up graduating early and getting accepted into an accelerated master's program for 5 years, which I ended up completing in 4.5 years. And that was the master's for teaching English to speakers of other languages, which was a really nice segue actually from my bachelor's in linguistics.
Nice. Well, congratulations. I'm sure the accelerated program involved a lot of long hours and hard work, and to get that done in an even shorter period of time. So my hat is off to you.
They do a lot of Tetris playing with the different classes and schedule. I remember even as a freshman, I had a 5-year plan. What do I have to take? Not only this semester, this spring semester, but how can I plan it out so that I can know what I'm going to be taking as a senior, as even though I'm like a sophomore, yeah, like I know what I'm going to be taking senior year, like down to a T in order for all the puzzle pieces to fit in order for me to take all the required classes and then prerequisites for each of those classes to stack up. So I remember like being definitely like having a lot of stress that came with it, but now like the fruits of the labor are paying off. I'm very thankful for that.
Good. Glad to hear that. So, first, you set off to get your BA in linguistics, and then did you already know when you started that you wanted to at some point go into teaching as well?
Yeah, so that was definitely in the back of my mind, especially during my pivot over into linguistics from being a biology major.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom, she's a huge role model of mine. Like she is like the person I look up to, and she's actually an E&L teacher. So she is a teacher. Like I'm come from a huge family of teachers. I think there are like 4 or 5 of us, and then when you open it up to like family friends, it's like all my mom's friends and everyone I've grown up with. So being able to like, grow up in that school community has really
Yeah.
shown me nothing but like the positive sides of education and how powerful it can be and how like it really builds a community. So having that, yeah, was really definitely an example and model and how I guess it sparked the flame early on. But yeah, she's an ENL teacher, so we share the same master's degree title. Like I have my ENL like TESOL degree for my
Mm-hmm.
master's, and she does as well. So it was definitely like nice, like having someone to go to immediately, like to ask for help.
Yeah.
And like I can see like how much she loves her job. Like she genuinely has such passion for what she does. Like this has been her day one for everything. So it's been nice to like kind of follow my mom's shoes a little bit. And I'm actually like where she works is very close to home. So I I went to that school as an elementary school student, so being able to like visit all the time, and then now where I work, actually, I work only 15 minutes a walk away. So like it's
Oh,
been really,
wow.
it's actually been very funny because up until recently, we actually shared a set of siblings. So she had one brother and I had another brother in my school. So it's just like, wow, like we're that close and like we share the school community that we are actually like sharing a pair of siblings right now.
Oh my gosh, I can just imagine as a mom, she must just be glowing with so much pride at what you're doing and to have that connection professionally now too. That's so
Yeah. And
wonderful. I
it's
love that.
endless shared conversations to talk about too. So like
Mhm.
we're talking about like, all right, like how's like the salary schedule? How do I enroll in my retirement benefits? How do like it's
All those
like
little
yeah.
things.
Like are they like, oh like have you seen the changes to curriculum? Like little things like that. It's definitely like very nice to have that person so close to home and be able to talk to her about it.
Yeah, I bet. And can you share a little bit about maybe what some of those first days when you started teaching were like, and maybe reflect a little bit on that experience? And I don't know if you remember any questions or thoughts that came up that you needed to immediately kind of go to your mom too because of her experience. Because you mentioned that you were doing some teaching in that little gap between one degree and the
Yeah.
next. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Oh, I'm happy to share. That's so funny because I'm glad I mentioned that my mom, like where she works. So after I graduated early from like the 5 year program, it was mid year since I did in 4.5. So I couldn't start a master's program yet mid year. And so I was like, all right, like how do I want to play this? Do I want to stay on campus and just like continue living on campus and not attend classes, or do I move back home? So what I ended up doing is I moved back home and I took a maternity leave substitute position at my mom's school. So
Okay, so
one
you
of her
were right
acting
down the
students,
hall.
yeah, exactly. Not even right down the hall. We shared a classroom. She
Oh,
was the ENL
wow.
teacher for my classroom. So a family friend. This is how close knit her school community is. Where like everyone has seen me grow up. Like the fact that like her coworkers have all seen me like while I was an elementary school student there, like on their own student, and now to see like me as a teacher and like be full circle. But yeah, like I was a substitute teacher, maternity leave substitute teacher. So I was there for 6 months. I was there for 6 months, and I was able to take over a second grade class. They were absolutely amazing. They were genuinely such a great class to start off with. And like, not to say that there weren't any hiccups or anything, but I think that was such a great learning class because the classroom teacher had already set up so many great expectations and model behavior where I was basically handed like a golden plate where everything was set for me. Um, but yeah, from there, like it was my mom who was really pushing it and serving these kids because she was the E&L provider there. And so there would be a period a day or a couple of periods a week where we would be co-teaching together in the same classroom. Like that's just so crazy to think about it. But I remember like how do I lesson plan for all these kids? Because I had my E&L degree where I was used to serving smaller groups for my student teaching or my externship placements where it would be just strictly E&L. Like I'm differentiating material and instruction for a pre-existing curriculum or pre-existing lesson that's been constructed by the classroom teacher. But here I was kind of flip-flopped and I was the classroom teacher and I hadn't had as much experience where I was like creating my own lesson plans. I was making slides. I was learning a completely new curriculum. And I remember really asking her, like, well, how do I navigate all these different curriculums? There's a different curriculum for math, there's a different curriculum for reading, there's a different curriculum for science and social studies. Like, how do I stay on top of everything? While also like having a balance because like at the end of the day, like I was a substitute teacher, like I was like how do I find the time to do this while also at that time applying for graduate school? So that was definitely like, all right, like you bring your work laptop home, I'll bring my work laptop home, like I'll show you how to navigate around like different websites, which I thought was pretty funny because usually I'm the one who's showing her how to use technology. And all of a sudden she's schooling me and like, all right, like choose this tab, go here to this link. She's like flying through. I'm like, slow down. So it was definitely like interesting to be on the other side.
Oh, I love that. Oh, so you mentioned you grew up not too far away from Stony Brook University, but how did you make your decision that was going to be the school to attend? And
Yeah.
it must have been a good choice for you to stay for all of those
Oh
degrees.
yeah. I couldn't get enough of it, honestly. I truly do love Stony Brook. And you'll hear this time and time again. Like I genuinely did enjoy my time there. I love Stony Brook. I'm incredibly appreciative for all these opportunities that they've given me. Not only in terms of like academic, but also like community, like different like leadership positions that I've had. Like they've truly given me so much. And I do genuinely think that college is absolutely what you make of it out of it. And that's a life lesson for how much life is what you make out of it. The opportunities you take, the risks you take, the people you meet, and the connections you make, right? So for me, like I grew up in Brooklyn. Um, I'm extremely close to my family. I've got quite a large family and then another outer circle of family friends. So I knew I didn't want to stray too far, but I did want to go away for college. So Stony Brook on Long Island definitely gave me a good mix of both where I was far enough to have to and be able to dorm, but also just a 2-hour lure ride away, like a Long Island
Yeah.
Railroad right away because at the time I wasn't driving either. So being able to commute back home for long weekends and all the breaks was very convenient while also having a good amount of like some of my friends, like my friends from home, also choosing that school because of the same reasons of being super commutable. And then I have family out on Long Island as well. So that was a good like
Oh, nice.
reassuring thing that like, oh, like if something did happen and it was like too late to catch the last train, like that they'd only be an hour car right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful area
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. And then at that time I was a bio major. So it was, I mean, they've got their own hospital there and they're
Yeah.
very well known for their incredible healthcare system and their major and how well like they do with innovation tech. So yeah, definitely. But big Seawolf, big Stony Brook fan here.
Yeah, and you won some awards while you were a student there. Quite a
Yes.
few,
Thank you.
actually.
Yes.
Would you mind sharing what some of those awards were and what they entailed?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So while I was there, um, I think one of the biggest ones for me, like I was most wowed about, is the SUNY Success Story Award. That was definitely a really big one for me. This was a nomination from Stony Brook to the SUNY system. Um, and I guess like that was just like an umbrella of like all the different leadership roles that I've undertaken, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And that was back in 2022. And as a part of that as well, they also invited me in for their marketing campaign um, to promote SUNYs and the SUNY system. And I'm a huge proponent of the SUNY system because I think it really allows like students to get affordable access to higher education, like anything. And I think that that's so incredibly important because college can be expensive. College isn't necessarily an option for everyone financially. And so, especially coming from New York City, like it's not a guarantee for everyone to go to college, unfortunately. So it just makes it more accessible. And I really do appreciate everything that SUNY and Stony Brook has given me. So that was definitely a very important one for me. I know for that marketing campaign especially too, like I've heard, I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard that I was on a couple of the MTA train ads
Oh,
on like
wow.
the platform in the trains. Like I wish I caught it. Like I take the train almost every day now. Like you're telling me I could be on the F train? But yeah, like crazy to think that like my face was on, some marketing material in New York City. And like I feel like that was like SUNY is such a big, widespread thing. So for it to be like so close to home really is impactful for me. And then in addition to that, so just to give a little background on a lot of these awards, some leadership positions that I've had the pleasure of taking and the honor to really be able to share. I was a chapter president for our undergraduate NISLA, which is our National Student Speech and Language Hearing Association. That's kind of like our pre-speech track that I was in since sophomore year. Like I was very involved and immediately like knew I wanted to not only change my major, but like go all in on this. Like this is what I wanted to do. And then I was a resident assistant. So not only did I dorm, I enjoyed dorming so much. And like I wanted it to be encouraged and like I really wanted to have everyone welcomed on campus so that they enjoy their college experience away from home. Especially, I know like Stony Brook has so many students from the city who have never really been far away from home, or like Long Island and the suburbs are so different from the urban area that like I wanted them to feel welcomed and like have the most of their college experience. So I was an RA there. I would say that was definitely the most like I'm trying to find a word for like the just the most impactful for me. Like I know like the campus residents community and like the department there like not only like gave there's this saying that like not only did they give me housing, they gave me a home. Like
Mm.
the people that I've met, the opportunities is further open. Yeah, like being able to have a home away from home is yeah, something you can't put words to. So I was in that position for 6 years, 6 out of the 7 years, longer than most people are in college
Oh,
for.
wow.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
really does speak to. So I've been to different areas that I was an RA and bounced around. Loved my staff every year. And then in my graduate year, I was one of the senators for the graduate student organization. So I know the undergraduates get a lot of funding, get a lot of hype. Of course, like all these freshmen are coming in very excited to go to college. And I fear that a lot of the graduate students are forgotten about, especially like our international graduate students who are coming
Mm.
in to this country for the very first time, but there might not be as many like open doors and like welcome invitations to events as many as like the first year students have because a lot of the graduate students who aren't international have been here and know the drill and how know how it works. So it was really great being able to be on a senator and an advocate for not only the graduate students, but also the ADA working group there and their disability group. So
Yeah.
yeah, so just wanted to give a little background on that. So what I believe, all those different leadership positions then gave me the Gerald L. Stein Organizational Leadership for Student Life Award. That one did like feel, that one was back in 2022 to 2023. So at the end of 2023, I got that award, and I remember being like, it felt like such an appreciation and an acknowledgement for all the work that I've done with the community, and like be able to be like an upperclassman and coming towards the end of my academic journey there, and like it was such a nice like goodbye to the school. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then I was also able to get the Henry and Marsha Lawfer Student Scholarship Award for my graduate program. That was fantastic. As I said before, like I really believe in affordable access to higher education. So the student scholarship really helps a long way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then through a lot of these trainings and RA training and student involvement, we want to make sure that our students are like have accessible resources to them, and that includes like red watch band training, green dot training. So through all these trainings, I was also able to get the Upstander Award for prevention and outreach, making sure that these students are not only equipped for themselves, but also equipped to help others too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot to summarize. Spent a long time at Stony Brook to put it all together. It's just like, oh my goodness, let me speed run it and give you the TLDR.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that really, drew us to want to have this opportunity to really showcase you, because you did such an extraordinary job of presenting, the kind of the breadth and depth of your experience as
Thank
a
you.
student there. And, you were there for a number of years and had so many incredible opportunities to, develop as a person and grow and, shape your trajectory,
Yeah.
and incredible achievements
Thank you.
really
Thank you
at
so
each
much.
step of the way. And you've done a beautiful job of sharing that, so that when people come and look at the, kind of compilation of work and experiences that you've shared in Digication, even though you do have, many layers to what you've done and different experiences, you've made it really easy and inviting for viewers to come in and get to know you.
Thank
And,
you.
each of these different kinds of experiences that you've had, on the pages that you've created, you have these wonderful written reflections that pair with those experiences or examples of work that you've done or clinical experiences. So people really get the opportunity to learn more deeply how each of those experiences impacted you, and different ways that it kind of let you grow and kind of become the person that you are today. And it's just such a beautiful example that we're excited to share. We'll include a link to it in the show notes for our podcast, so that people can go and visit it and get inspired in creating their own. And it was one of the ways that I, had the opportunity to learn about some of these many awards that you receive. And, sometimes when we're working with students, sometimes they may struggle with kind of seeing the value of the different experiences that they're having. Some students, especially maybe as undergraduates or new to the whole college experience, may not recognize so easily the value that each of their experience is having. Sometimes they kind of see, each kind of, course that they're taking in college is kind of, checking off and getting to the next thing. And, that real life is going to happen after graduation, and not taking note that there's all of this incredible growth and learning that's happening each day, and having this space where they can kind of showcase that and reflect on those things can be so valuable. And I was curious, when you were at Stony Brook, at what stage did you start kind of creating this kind of curated experience and kind of personal branding, describing who you are and all of these skills? And were there certain professors that you encouraged you to do that, or was it something that you picked up on your own? I would love to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that you mentioned the like first year students, because I actually remember back in my first year, I was also assigned as like an assignment to do a digication, and I promise you it does not look as good as this. Nowhere
An
near.
iterative
Like
experience. Yes.
like I'm sure it's somewhere. It definitely still exists somewhere, but it definitely does not look nearly as good as this. It was definitely like you check a box, you throw a picture in the background, make it look like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
semi nice. But I definitely did not know how many options there could possibly be with this. However, I started this I believe in 2023, at the very beginning of 2023. So I had been working on this for over a year and a half, maybe, yeah, like over a year and a half. And this was an assignment from my clinical professor. She actually had us, this is like she had us create this because it was our portfolio to send out to people who are hiring or interviewing us for post graduation.
Okay.
And so
What course was this?
there were a couple different courses that she listed. So it's the clinical 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm trying to remember. I can actually pull it up. HHS 582. So there are a handful of clinicals that we have to go through. There are
Okay.
4 clinicals, and I believe it's like HHS 581, 582, 583, 584, and these are all attached to the speech language pathology program at Stony Brook. Um, and these are in-person classes, but they're also a mix of what we do at externship. How can we apply these skills and talk about our externships and how they'll compare to what our clinical fellowship is going to look like post-graduation? How after clinical fellowship experience, how that's going to carry over and look like in our CCCs, like our actual position and job as full-time service providers. So that was really nice to be able to give me like, okay, like this is not only for an assignment, but like this is what's going to help me get a job in the future. This is how I'm going to sell and market and like present myself to a future employer to to give them a little bit about me that's beyond just like 3 bullet points on a resume.
Right.
Is
Right.
like, how can I make myself stand out from 1,000 other applicants? And for me, like I knew that I was coming back to the New York City Department of Education. Like that's always where I knew I wanted to go, especially because I'm from Brooklyn. I have that school experience. I love working with kids.
Mhm.
Um, and I know that like this is where my mom worked. Like I knew that it was a great union to be in, a great salary schedule to follow, great school schedule to follow. And then from my previous subbing experience too, like I knew I wanted to end up in the DOE. However, the DOE is extremely competitive to get into because everyone else also wants to get into the DOE. So I knew that if I wanted to get the position, I had to stand out. And I thought to myself, like, well, I had already been to the career fair. Like, I have a pretty strong resume. What else can I do to help me not only do well in the interview, but how do I even land myself in an interview? How do
Mhm.
I get my resume to their eyes, you know? So I remember um cold emailing, admittedly. That's some advice I'd gotten from other speech therapists that had already gotten into the DOE, like that they got in through cold emailing and like had going into the database and like this Excel sheet of like 200 something speech recruiters and speech supervisors, and you write in a paragraph about yourself, who you are, and attach your resume. But a lot of people like might still have like paper portfolios. Some might not have shared their portfolios. Some might not have felt confident about their portfolio enough to share. But I remember very proudly attaching my link to that mini paragraph about myself. And I like to think that like this is something that they would look at. Like I know that a lot of times like they'll briefly skim through your resume, but if they have another link and have something else that's eye-catching to look at, why not? Or to have something memorable if they just click that link. So I wanted it to be a strong representation of myself. Like it's not only very organized, but I've got a lot of leadership experience. I want to show it off. You know, I have a lot of extracurriculars. Like I want to show that I'm not only great at my externships and my academics, but I'm a well-rounded candidate for the position that I've had a lot of experience too.
Here's a preview of what's coming up next in part 2 of my conversation with Sharron Huang, recent graduate of Stony Brook University.
Our success is their success. And that I think is also why I chose to come back to Stony Brook, because I personally had Dr. Fabus, who's the head of the program. I had taken her classes as a pre-speech track student in the summers and in the winters. So being able to like have that personal experience with her, and I know how much she's invested into the program and invested in our success. I knew she would be happy to write a letter of recommendation, especially with how involved I was with the program and how she really would love us to see us succeed.